My guest today is Cowboy Troy Coleman. He was guest number two when I. My guest today is Cowboy Troy Coleman. He was guest number two when I started this show 5+ years ago.
Yeah.
I appreciate having you back on and with video this time.
It's awesome, man. It's pretty cool.
See that big smile of yours.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
How you been? It's been a few months since I seen you.
Yeah, last time I saw you, I believe, was in December at NFR in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's been good. Been staying busy, running the road, writing new songs, promoting the songs that I've already released, and working on some more to come up here in the next few months.
I think that's why I'm pretty excited to talk to you, because I talked to you pre-COVID, and then we met a couple of times in between. But now I'm really curious to hear how you think the music business has changed in the last 5 years, even.
Well, it's changed enormously. I mean, when you really think about it, as far as entertainment goes, our industry was the first industry that was shut down because of the propensity to have large crowds gather.
Yeah.
And then we were the last industry to really be allowed to go back to work on a full-time basis. So it was an interesting time, difficult as an artist and as a musician, but it was one of those times where you found more people recording and releasing music from their own living rooms or their own little, they have a 1-bedroom kind of a recording studio, whatever it is, or music from the back porch or whatever they were doing. And it was one of those times that you really kind of had to scramble as a writer and as an artist to get your music out there. All the digital platforms made it a lot easier for us to get the music out there because nobody was able to go
anywhere.
To live shows, no live shows. And it allowed us to, connect that way through socials.
You're right. I think the socials really help people get out one or two songs. But it's amazing to me. And I'm old, so I admit to it. I still remember buying albums, and now I'm buying a song at a time.
Right.
So it's just like, it's bizarre to me.
Well, when you think about it's the way people consume their music. I mean, back in the 80s and the early 90s, people would buy albums and they would listen from start to finish.
Yeah.
And, as we got more into a singles-based music economy, people started just buying a song at a time in the mid to late 90s. And then all the way up into now, it's just one single at a time. And so it's different the way consumers get their music. And, it's one of those things that you just got to adapt to. So you have to do, I guess, there's a technique now that in recent years that I kind of learned from watching social media. And, you ask around, and it's called waterfalling, where you take a single, you release it. And then a month later, there's another single and you release that single. But when you release the second single, you put the first single on that particular project. And all the digital streams that accrue during the first single attach automatically to the next project, to that next single when you release it as a extended single, an A-side, B-side single. Then a month after that, you release a third single, and then you take the stream, and then you take the streams from the first and the second single, and you attach it to that project and release that project. And then eventually, when you accrue enough streams, you add that on, and you put out your full project, and you have all these thousands of extra streams that attach, because people have been listening to and streaming the project for months now, one single at a time. But then when you release the full project, then everything attaches to it. All the streams from the previous singles attached to that. So it looks better in your numbers when your album is released and it says, oh, wow, man, in the first week, you've had, 300,000 to 1 million streams on your album in its first week. Oh, wow. It's like, well, it's just adding them on, but it's also reinforcing those previous singles for the listener.
Yeah. Does that change the way you write? And I said, because like I've watched documentaries with the Metallica behind the scenes and some of the other bands, and, they sit down and write an album. And so they're writing 10 songs that kind of go together. Are you now writing not that way, where you go, I'm a party anthem, a summer anthem, or how are you doing it?
Well, when I write, I generally try to write to what comes to mind, because it's kind of a difficult process sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes if somebody says something, or you think about something, or you're sitting around with your friends, oh, hey, that'd be whatever, and you say
What
it
a
and you
good
make a
hook. Yeah.
comment. Yeah, it'd be a good hook. You make a comment and you're like, oh man, it'd be a great hook. Let me sit down and let me write that out. And then you get your phone and you're humming voice notes into your phone so
Yeah.
that you don't forget the melody. And sometimes you get enough of those together and you say, well, these three would go well in a project, but these two or three over here, that'd be a separate project. Or, it's very rare that I sit down in that fashion where I'm sitting, okay, I'm going to write an album on this subject. So, I mean, I just kind of write to what comes to mind. And then over time, I get enough, song ideas that I can figure out which ones will work together as a full project.
You're still doing Hick Hop, but you've also added
Yeah.
some traditional singing songs.
Yeah.
The proper term, but
Well, just traditional country songs and Texas country and things of that nature. I've been rapping and writing my own original rap lyrics for over 30 years, since I was, a kid in college, a freshman in college. And writing rap lyrics is a whole lot easier in terms of, because when you rap, you don't necessarily have to carry a melody or a tune. And I really didn't start learning or trying to learn how to properly sing until about maybe 15 years ago. So I'm still pretty new at it, and you can hear it when I'm singing. I mean, it's like I'm not.
See, that's on you, buddy. I don't think you do, because
I'm not
15 years isn't a
singer.
newbie. Just so you know.
Well, but to get really good at something, I mean, because
15 years, plenty.
15 years, but I mean, I don't send hour after hour after hour of practicing my singing. So you can hear that, it's like
I don't think you can.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I tell you, it's funny to me because I know how I sound in my head.
Yeah.
And then when other people hear what I put on recordings, some of them seem to like it. So I'm appreciative of that. But to me, I guess sometimes I don't really like the sound of my own voice. So
Yeah, I do the same thing with my show, man. I've asked some strangers that have listened to my show, and they'll send me a comment. I go, can I ask you a question? Like, yeah. I go, how does it sound? Like, I mean, how does, to me, it's terrible. I don't listen back to my own episodes. I just can't. But
I understand that feeling. I understand that because, I mean, for me, it's just kind of odd, I mean, because I'm not accustomed to hearing myself on a regular basis sing like that. So, I try to do the best I can and, and get those, hopefully my studio engineer gets in there and he kind of tweaks it and makes it sound decent. And then we move forward and write and record the next stuff, but I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed, a traditional country sound, as far as my repertoire of things I listen to. And, I just said, it would be nice if I could put down and write a collection of songs that are just country songs, traditional sounding songs, but that really have that Texas feel and influence to it. And so that's what I did with Songs from the Piney Woods, which was put out back in June of this year, June 2nd, 23.
Well, and then my favorite, as you know, because I've told you a couple times, is Gonna Be All Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's all timing, right? Because I heard that song, I think, a week after I had some bad news. So I was
wow.
So you just never know when a song's going to hit somebody, and you're like, all right,
Yeah, well, I'm glad that it came at the right time for you because
me too.
when I wrote that song, it was during COVID. And it was October of 20.
Wow.
And and I was sitting there on the back porch, and I was drinking my coffee that morning, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, man, I believe it was October that year. I know it was during the shutdown, but it was just an odd time for everybody. And, I had been watching the news and listening to radio news and reports and all that stuff. And you hear about, people that you actually knew, artists that I had known and whatnot that had passed away and friends and things of that nature. And then just with everything being kind of weird at that time, it made it an odd time for everybody. And I just kind of sat there and, sitting here sipping on my back porch, waiting, as the time goes by, and I'm thinking about that. I'm like, wow. And then I started humming a melody to it. And so I went inside after I finished, and that keyboard right over there, you can't see it behind the camera. There's a keyboard over there, sitting on the desk. And, I went in and I started kind of plinking out a melody.
Yeah.
And when it came down to it, it got, in a decent enough structure where I could kind of hum it, listen to it, and then kind of come up with the rest of the lyrics. And it came together relatively quickly after that. And then I just kind of had to practice my keyboard plinking well enough to kind of get the idea down so I could write that song and then send it to the musicians. They're like, "Oh, wow, this is," yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, that's it."
It's interesting. I love how you said you sent it to musicians, because I did that with my theme song, right? It's like, it's kind of to me, I can't imagine going back 20 years or 30 years ago and telling musicians, hey, you're going to be able to work on something in your house, email it, Dropbox it, whatever, to your friend in a different part of the country. He's going to play it, record it, send it back to you. I mean,
it's a different process now. You don't have to be in the same room.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels different. I mean, it feels different anyway, but there's really nothing like being able to be in the same room with your musicians, and you can kind of make eye contact while they're playing, and you can kind of give them a look like, yeah, keep doing that, or push it back, or bring it forward, be a little bit more aggressive with your playing or whatever it is. But you can't do that when you're sending it out. So you have to leave very detailed notes in the email and say, okay, in the second chorus, I need you to play a bit more aggressively, but in the first verse and the first chorus, you be a little bit more subdued. I mean, it's like you have to leave very detailed notes when it comes to stuff like that.
Or like what I did, I just when because I had Steve Stevens did the guitar parts on my theme, and he said, and he goes, I'm not done with it. I go, yeah. I go, it's perfect. There you go. I don't need to spend any more time on it.
He's a great musician, Steve Stevens. Yeah. Great musician.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like you play predominantly with Big and Rich.
Yeah, I tour with them the majority of my time, and then on occasion when I have some days off from that tour, then I'll do solo shows.
Yeah. Was it interesting working with Big and Rich during COVID? And because I mean, John's got some views.
Yeah. I mean, during the COVID shutdown, I mean, it's like there really wasn't much going on. We had probably 50, 60 shows, I guess, scheduled for 2020, and we managed to get 5 shows in on the books. So there wasn't an opportunity to really get out and do a whole lot. The last show we played of that year, I recall being, I want to say it was in South Dakota. It was in South Dakota, and it was in August of 2020 in South Dakota. And it was a good time to be able to get out and play. Yeah. Because we had kind of not really done a whole lot since the early part of the year. So, grateful for that time to get out there and stretch your legs and kind of knock the cobwebs off, because it was kind of odd, man. It was just one of those things where, like, man, we're getting ready to play. It's the first show in months that we're getting out here, and so we tore into it, and the fans liked it, and we liked it too.
I'm gonna add, it's interesting. I had Maxi Priest, the reggae singer, and he told me, because I talked to him during COVID too, and he said it was interesting for him because he wanted a break from touring, because as an artist, you don't get paid if you don't tour a lot.
Right.
Drives streams and sales and merch and everything else. So he wanted a break, but then when he had the break, he was stuck in Jamaica. He couldn't get back into England. And all of a sudden he wanted to go back on the road. So
yeah, you kind of get what you ask for on those things, man. I tell you, it's really interesting how that works. I tell people, you pray for work, and when you get it, you don't complain that you got it. So it's kind of like when we get an opportunity to go out and play, I'll take it as it comes and make the best of it. You don't complain for it, because I remember, man, I wish one day I could get out there and play songs and get out there and play shows and get out there and tour and see everything that I've only seen on TV. And then when you get to finally do it, you just kind of take it and you run and there's a certain level of gratitude that you have to have. But I understand, when people are out there and they're doing it a whole lot and they want to break, I get that. But then when you get that
when it's
that
a
short
forced
amount of
break.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
when it's forced and not of your own volition,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it's kind of like, oh man, I want to go do something. I want to go play. I want to go somewhere. And during that time, really, the only time you really had an opportunity to go anywhere was if you were an essential worker,
Yeah.
or if you were going to the grocery store or getting gas for your car or something like that. And there were very few people there, whenever you went anywhere. So
I live in California. It was the most shut down state in the country. So
yeah, I can't imagine what you guys went through during that time. I can only imagine how frustrating it would have been to even want to go out and just, go out and have a cup of coffee somewhere at a cafe, and you can't do that because you've got
they
to
would
be
only
home.
allow 3 people in, so you'd have to wait in line 6 feet apart outside on the sidewalk. If
Hmm.
they wouldn't allow that many people inside. And even like for my work, we weren't allowed. They were only allowed so many customers inside. So whenever I did my
Hmm.
meetings, I literally did meetings outside so they could keep their customer count to a minimum, because I would count as
Hmm.
a person. So if I was in there and they were maxed out, they couldn't let a customer in.
Oh
So all the
wow,
vendors and everything, they forced them to stay outside so they could allow more customers inside.
that's insane.
Yeah,
But that was an odd year for everybody. It
it
really
sure was.
was. It,
About
it was
2
really
years
an
for
odd
us,
year.
but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you think about it, 21, it took about the first quarter of the year to really kind of get back to some normalcy anyway,
Not here.
because people were still, yeah, people were still timid. People were still timid, and to this day are still timid, some of them, about going out and being in groups. I mean,
Yeah.
to this day. And, you just kind of hope that folks can kind of get back to, a sense of comfort, because it's a hard time for a lot of people.
It is interesting, especially, I mean, like I said, California, we're unique people, I guess. And it's interesting to go outside and you still see people wearing masks and they're still concerned, and you know,
Yeah.
you have to kind of appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you have to be able to feel like, okay, hey, you're okay, everything will be all right, but it takes you a minute to get to that point.
you hope. Yeah. So if you put your crystal ball on, how do you see
Mhm.
music changing over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I mean, I think people are going to go more into streaming than before, and there's a lot of streaming going on now. I
Yeah.
mean, people have gotten to the point now that, I mean, you think about it, people are having a bit of a difficult time wanting to purchase a full album unless it's one of their favorite artists, or
Sure.
purchase a single unless it's one of their favorite artists. Because, if an album costs, say, $10, if you buy the whole album,
Which is
people are
cheaper
buying.
now than it was before.
True,
I mean, I was
but it's
paying $10, $12 30 years ago.
yeah. But think about it. If you pay $15 a month for a premium subscription, you can get access to all the recorded music that's out there,
Yeah.
and it's high quality digital audio. So
And
people are spending more money on subscriptions, I think, and so it's going to be more singles driven, unless it's a major artist where you could put out, a full album or a double album, or in some cases a triple album, because when they do that, they saturate the market. So all the streaming services, have all these, well, here's new content from this person and that
yeah.
person and that person. Well, that's because they put out a 20-song, 30-song album.
And Taylor Swift could do that right now with the success of her latest tour.
Yeah, she's done well. Morgan Wallen
Yeah.
continues to do well with his touring. There's a lot of artists that can do it. There's a handful of artists that can do that.
Yeah.
There's a handful of artists that can put out 20, 30 song albums. But it's just interesting how the consumer will listen to that music, how they access it.
That's what
Some people access their music through streaming services. Others get their music by listening to terrestrial radio, others satellite radio. Some are listening to it only by watching videos on YouTube and other streaming services. It's interesting to see the data.
I was going to say, because I'm trying to think, most of my new artists that I hear are probably from social media, whether it's TikTok
Yeah,
or Instagram, because
yeah. TikTok and Instagram are good for that.
it's a lot of times where the video's playing and I hear a song like, hey, what's that song? And then I'll go down to the music
Hmm.
and see who's actually singing it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
and then all
it's
of a sudden I'm a fan.
Well, it's when they use that audio, and then it's like, if you're wanting to put out new music, here's some trending audio suggestions for
Yeah.
you to use. And if it's a popular enough song, then people are using it, and then it becomes more popular, and it increases the number of streams for that particular song, because there's a royalty that's paid based upon, anytime a song is streamed, there is a royalty that's paid, regardless of the format or the outlet of it. It's going to be some sort of streaming involved. It's a fractional fraction of a penny or whatever.
Very fractional. I was going to say, don't get it twisted.
Yeah, it's not like you're running out and you're making $1 million or anything like that. You have to stream a whole lot, to get that kind of bread. But they're actually working on trying to get the streaming royalty rate, in a better stead for the writers and publishers. Yeah. That's been being negotiated for months, almost years.
Well, that's it. Where I live in Los Angeles, it's similar to what the actors are talking about and the writers are talking about with the streaming services, because Netflix is the same way, right? It's like Spotify. It's like
I would guess, yeah.
They're not getting residuals on a lot of the if you watch Gilmore Girls or one of the older shows, Netflix paid a fee to the company, to the studio. And so every time that show is being played, the actors aren't getting residuals where they used to if it was being replayed on cable.
Oh, yeah, that's something that they need to fix there. But then they also have to work. That's what they also have to figure out, is the use of AI and other technologies, because there are songs and stuff. There's songs that are being released using AI, where you'll say, hey, make this song in the same style of
Linkin Park,
whatever artist that you want to pick, but have it where another artist is singing the lead vocal. And there's enough vocal samples out there that computers can go and take it and then make it to match the vocal, or make it to match the song with a new artist as the lead vocal. And it's just kind of odd, but you hear it sometimes. Sometimes it sounds kind of good.
It's
crazy.
They scanned in Chester Bennington's voice from Linkin Park, who obviously has passed away. Mm-hmm. They've scanned in his voice, and they've released new songs or duets with him singing to an Evanescence song or whatever. And you're like,
yeah,
wow, that sounds like him.
Right. But the question is, how do those royalties affect how his estate gets paid?
Yeah.
Because
he actually didn't sing it.
Right, but it's his voice.
Well, it's a simulation of his voice.
Still,
I know, man.
That's what I'm saying. I get it, but your voice is basically your audible fingerprint, so to speak. And if it's your voice, but
what if someone sounds similar to what if I sound similar to Cowboy Troy and I start singing?
That's different. If you have enough evidence to show that you sing in a similar fashion, that people are confusing the two of us, that's one thing. But if you're taking a computer generated scan of your voice, someone's voice, and then releasing new music with the digital voice, I think it's like, man, come on. You took these vocal prints from this person and you're putting it out there. I think their estate should get compensated for it too.
I agree.
Get some sort of fee.
Elvis Presley could have a new album release.
Oh, no question. Between that and then using some sort of hologram technology, could go out and do a whole concert with new music.
I just got hit up at I get a lot of stuff through the podcast. You should do this, snippets and this and that. There's a program out there where they'll scan in your face and your voice. And then so I could do a social media release. It'll look like me. It'll be in my voice. But if I type in next week's guest is Cowboy Troy Coleman, and that my character, my AI generated character will come out and say it, and it'll look like me. And
it's crazy,
dude. It's gonna be
so crazy.
I tell people, I go, that genie's out of the bottle, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
How do you put AI back?
You can't. That's why they're trying to. I don't think you can. I think that's why they're trying to negotiate. how people are going to be compensated for AI technology, and also consideration for, say, awards. I mean, if you think about it, what if an award comes out and the song was an AI generated song?
Who gets the
If a movie comes out and it's all done with AI generated technology, do they get an Oscar because it sounds so great and it's picture perfect and everything is all digitized and it looks really good? Is it fair for people who spend hours and hours of their lives trying to create art that way? Is it fair for is it fair for them to get, for the AI generated content to get the award, or should it go to human created content?
Have you played with it at all?
No, not yet. I haven't. I'm not opposed to the technology. I just haven't sat down and gotten down and started digging into it. I know folks that have, and they think it's cool. But I mean, I just kind of like being able to just do it as a human, as opposed to kind of digging into the computer technology so far.
It'll blow you away, dude.
I'm sure it will. Mean, if it's like, it would be like, I guess, Cliff Notes back in the 80s and 90s, when people were using it to pass tests and writing assignments. It's like a computer generated version of Cliff Notes. I would think that it's so good and so spot on that you're not going to get it wrong.
I'll give you some examples.
Okay.
When I first started checking into it, my wife's favorite movie is Grease, the original, right? So I go into ChatGPT and say, write a sequel in script format for the movie Grease from 1978.
Wow.
Within seconds, it gave me an entire movie script of a sequel using all the same character names in script format. It took a minute.
A minute. Okay. Was it better than Grease 2?
Well, of course. Anything.
Really? Come on. Is it really better than Grease 2?
I wasn't a big fan of Grease 2, so yeah.
Oh man, Grease 2 was awesome.
I love Michelle Pfeiffer.
Perfect.
That
was the best part.
Maxwell
that was the best part. Yeah, that was the best part. Michelle Pfeiffer.
I guarantee it. She used to work at the Thrifties down by me.
No fooling. Wow.
Yeah, she used to serve ice cream at the Thrifties in Mission Viejo.
No kidding. Wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
That's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I'm curious to see how AI is going to affect the music industry, because you can, like, I was just messing around with some other friends. Type in, write a country song about North Carolina in a duet format, male and female leads.
Wow.
I mean, it's 20 seconds.
What kind of voices were you getting? Or is this just writing the song?
Just writing the songs. And it wrote you could say, make shorter, make more descriptive, make more flowery, make it more business-like, put it in 5th grade reading level, put it in college reading level.
Wow.
It's instantaneous.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And I'm not even good at it.
But think about that. And so it's kind of like, I kind of look at it in the sense of, what will that do to the artists, musicians, and songwriters if that becomes the new accepted standard, especially when it comes to, award shows and things of that nature. I mean, I don't ever expect to receive an award or anything, but I'm just thinking in terms of those that do, how does that affect their ability to create? Because it's like, well, the award for best movie goes to, ChatGPT for its creation of a 3-hour documentary on 16th century England or something like that. It's kind of like, wow. I mean, what do you do?
I'll show you some stuff later.
Okay.
Offline.
Oh man.
Because it's I don't know how you could like I said, the genie's out of the bottle. So,
it's there. I mean, it's just a matter of,
and
I don't know.
What I found is, like, there's not too many things I've done with it where I've gone, oh, that's perfect. I've always changed this, or I didn't like that. But if it gets out 80% of the writer's block, and it gives me the outline and the all that, and then I make it my own.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I totally understand that because there are times when you get stumped and you're trying to figure out what to say and you can't get through it. I totally get that. It's just a weird feeling though.
Well, because
it's part of what we're doing. Yeah, as an artist and a writer and all that stuff. I mean, it is what it is. You just got to figure out the best way you can to create the best art that you can. And art is subjective. So what's some of your major categories of art, no matter what they are, if people will go with that particular type of artistic creation, it's not saying it's not good. I mean, I'm sure it's good, probably excellent. But I mean, it's like there are some people that just kind of want that human created particular art, no matter what it is.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
You're going to go to a writing roundtable and people are going to bring out their phones and go, so how do you want this to sound?
Right. It does take that away. I can only imagine how odd that would feel. It's like everybody sitting there looking at their computer screens or their phones and, okay, we're going to write a song. What's the song going to be about? It's going to be about somebody from a small Midwestern town. No, let's make it Southwestern town, somewhere in New Mexico. Okay, you write that song and it's got to be about this particular subject matter and all that. I mean, it just kind of spits it out right then for you. It does.
Dude, when I tell you, it's
take away the creative pride.
It's 5 seconds or less.
Gee whiz, man. The creative process, the fun of sitting there with your fellow writers and just kind of like chit-chatting about what's going on, and then something strikes a chord and like, oh man, that'd be an interesting, because a lot of times you're just sitting there, you're chatting for a while. You agree to sit down and write with somebody, and then you're talking. And while you're in the process of talking and discussing the events of the day, some kind of idea kind of swoops in, and then, oh, that's what we should write about. Okay, cool. Let's write about that.
It's gonna be interesting. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because it's you've been around for a while, so you've seen you're going to be part of that change.
Yeah, I get it. I'm glad that I get an opportunity to continue to make art, music, and just have fun with it. Art is one of those things that it allows me to it allows me to express myself in fashions where it's like, if something's on my mind, I can get it off my mind, get it off my chest and get it out there.
Yeah.
Without having to sit around and keep it bottled up, because, it's just one of those things. It's kind of like with cooking, it's allowing me to get whatever's on my mind, get it out of there, and I can focus on what I'm cooking.
So if I see a lot of jalapenos in your cooking or something, I'll be like, oh, he's bad.
Wow, he's got 3 different peppers in this chili. Yeah, it's been one of those days.
Exactly.
That's funny.
I've known you about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Minus.
More than that.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Well, I'm trying to keep us younger.
Oh, got it.
Even though I'm a grandpa now, so it's all good.
Congratulations.
How have you stayed so positive, at least in the public light? Everyone has our own picadillos and our own issues and heartaches and this and that. But every time I see you, when you're in public, you're on point.
Well, I try my best. I understand, it's kind of like, it's the way I refer to the place where I live. It's on a half-acre lot, and I call it the happy half acre. And the reason why I call it that is because I think about how things could be.
Sure.
Things could always be worse. And I try to look at myself as a glass half full kind of guy. So I think of it in terms of, instead of being upset about the glass being half empty, where'd all the extra water go? Just be happy about the water that's available for me to drink to quench my thirst. And I call this place the happy half acre because I think, things, you could be getting beat up out in the real world outside, but when you come home, that has to be your spot where you think of nothing but positive stuff. It's not easy. There are times when you get down on yourself, sure.
Yeah.
But you try to think about the most positive things that you can. And even if you've had a bad day, well, you know what? At least I have this, whatever it is that I can turn to as being something that is a positive aspect of my life. And just kind of, just keep a good attitude. It's not always easy, but, I make it a point to do that. And I'm just grateful that I get to keep going out and and being around the fans and saying hello to people and performing and touring. It's a great thing. I've wanted to do it since I was 13 years old. And the fact that I started doing it, it took me until I was about 33 or 34 to actually get to do it. And now that I'm still out here doing it all these years later, I'm still grateful for it. So I'll take that and run.
I'm curious because do you think you worked a normal job, what I consider, accounting and a regular old job, and then you got to pursue your dream, and whereas like Morgan Wallen, Taylor Swift, when you've been famous since you were a teenager, right, and 10, 15 years later, do you I'm curious, because I'm the same way, right? It's like I'm a normal guy, and now I've got this, and then people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm very fortunate," but it's also 5 years of work and this and that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I'm grateful that I got the opportunity when I got it, because when I was in my 20s, I wasn't as mature.
Sure.
So, the fact that I didn't have that success until I was early to mid 30s, it allowed me to be able to appreciate the success that I was able to, achieve with help from friends, and the fact that I still get to do it. I sit back sometimes and I think about it, I say, man, I'm still able to do this. This is really cool. And I appreciate it because when I look out, people have all kinds of other options when it comes to your disposable income or your time watching videos or listening to music. There's so many options. And if somebody takes the time out of their day to listen to a 3-minute and 17-second song that you had the opportunity to write and perform, that's a big deal. To me, it is, because, you could have been doing something else with that 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yeah.
You could have been, you could have been clipping coupons to go grocery shopping, or you could have been, listening to the news, or you could have been talking on the phone with friends.
Yeah.
Anything. And the fact that you took time out of your schedule to listen to 3 minutes and 17 seconds of something that I helped create, that's a big deal to me.
Dude, I literally, most of my shows are 45 minutes long. And so when I see the counts and, in different countries, and I'm like, someone actually took the time to listen to my guest.
It's a pretty cool thing. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Then when you start listening, like, oh wow, and you're looking up the data, it's like, well, this person in Germany, there's like 20 people in Germany were listening, in different parts of Germany listening to the show. And that's a pretty cool thing when you can break it down to what region. That's pretty interesting.
This weekend, I got a new country to listen to my show. Is that Seychelles? Seychelles. It's the smallest country in Africa. It's an island in the archipelagos on the eastern side of Africa. It's just an island.
Wow.
I'm like, why would someone?
How many people?
90,000, I think.
How many people were listening?
Oh, it's just one person. I just got one down from that country, but I was just like, I had to look it up. I'm like, how is that a country? I've never even heard of it.
That's cool. That's cool. One turns into two, and two turns into a bunch after that. Because they'll start spreading the word. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's a good feeling. So I was curious how you think, because there are some young artists. I interviewed Noah Thompson, who won the American Idol, and he'd never even been on a plane before that show.
Wow.
And he had never performed outside of his hometown. So to go from that to playing Broadway, a year.
That's a big leap. That's a big leap.
Yeah, there was, and not a lot in between. You know what I mean? Going from,
I get it. I mean, you start out, you play in your small hometown, and then your next level of exposure is millions of people watching on TV.
Yeah.
And then after that, millions, hundreds of thousands of tourists coming through Broadway to watch your show.
Yeah.
After that, that's still a big deal.
Being 19 years old.
That's a lot. That's a lot. You got to have a good team around you, people that can kind of help keep you grounded and say, hey, you're lucky you get to do this. This is great. Keep up the hard work and the good work, and then, if you keep your head down and your feet moving, it'll still continue to work for you.
Kind of look at like Daughtry kind of did that, right? With American Idol. He was an artist before, but, obviously he got a tremendous amount of fame, but he's still grinding. I met his bass player, and they're Or he's just out grinding, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
We had that little bump.
Yeah. You got to have that grit when it comes down to it, because I mean, it's the popularity can be fleeting,
Yeah.
and, in order to, it takes a whole lot to get the attention, and it takes a ton of work to keep it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't just say, okay, I've made it, just because I got to do this one TV show or get on this particular radio program. You got to continue to work very hard. I mean, you look at some of the journalists that have their own podcasts, like yourself, you have your own podcast. You know that it takes a lot of work to get to the starting point. Then once you're at the starting point, you got to get the content, and then you got to keep coming up with the content. You've been doing this for years now, so you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Same thing with an artist. Same thing with an artist. You got to work like everything, to get people interested, and you got to keep working to keep them, whether they're continuing to come back and listen to your work.
Yeah, it's interesting because is that a conscious effort for you to, when you sit and you go, okay, I'm going to put out more of a country song or more of a hip hop song? Are you doing that consciously, or is it just kind
Sometimes,
of? Okay.
sometimes, but a lot of times, when like the country music, the country records and stuff like that, I was thinking like, man, it sure would be nice to, I've had a lot of ideas lately, and this was several years ago. I have had a lot of ideas lately that lean into a country feel more so than a hip hop feel.
I agree.
And so I got to the point where I started writing those songs. And then I started getting to the point, well, why don't I just try and record some of them and pick the best ones and record those, and then see how it works. And so that's what I did. But, I'm of a mind of writing what comes to mind at the time. Sometimes the songs won't necessarily be in the same format that you think they would normally be. It's like people look at me and I'm thinking, yeah, hip hop songs, I could write a whole lot of hip hop songs, sure. But, it's not what was hitting me in the head at the time. And they were, and these ideas kept hitting me in the head frequently and repetitively enough that I felt like I had to get them, recorded so that I can get the idea out of my head.
Yeah.
Because the longer it took me to get the songs recorded, like Beer Man, the idea for Beer Man, man, I got the idea for that in 2018.
Wow.
Fort Worth, I got the idea for that in 2018. Because, after one evening hanging out over in Fort Worth over at Billy Bob's, and that's 2018. It's a long time. So, I mean, these ideas sit around like, as long as it's in Texas, was released in 2017 as a single, but I started having the idea for that in 2015 because people from home, here in Texas, I was still living in Tennessee at the time. People from home were like, hey man, when are you going to come home and play some shows, man? We miss you back here in Texas. Yeah. And it just got to the point where, I got the idea for it, and I started writing down the idea and the melody and, humming the melody, and like, okay, this is what I need here, here, and here. And then finally got it recorded and didn't release it until 2017.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, it's worth the wait. But man, I tell you, sometimes if you don't, at least for me, if an idea for a song and a melody keeps coming along, if I don't get it out of my head, it keeps coming back. And sometimes it'll keep me from sleeping. Not terribly, but I mean, I'll wake up with the idea. I'll go to sleep with the idea, wake up again. It's still there. And it's like, sometimes you wait a couple years and it's still there. Yep. I guess it's good enough. I guess I should do something with it.
Dude, I've had guests like that. I've had guests. It's taken me 18 months. This guy, it's been over 2 years. I'm still waiting.
Wow.
So, but I think it's going to be a good enough get. And it's not because they're a big name. It's just, I want to know how they get through their world. So it's worth it.
Yeah,
so you just
I understand that.
Kind of chilling.
I definitely understand that.
Yeah. How much traveling do you expect to be doing, let's say in the next year?
I get the feeling that it'll pick up a little bit. We've had a moderate touring schedule this year, but I think it'll pick up a little bit next year. It kind of goes in cycles. It kind of, peaks and valleys. We did fewer shows this year, but you had other work to fill in the gaps. But I think next year it'll probably be a little bit more music, a little bit more touring.
Nice. Well, that'd be good. If you,
Yeah.
not that you will, but if you ever make it to Southern California, it'd be great to see you.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool. I look forward to getting back there and get a chance to hang out with you.
The one question that I actually had a guest come up with that I use with all my guests, and now I get to talk to you again on it. What's the most influential city you've been to?
Most influential city as far as writing music?
Nope.
Or just
influential
in general? Wow. I mean, it's kind of hard. Sometimes I think Dallas is great because when I get through Dallas, it's home. It's where I grew up. I spent my childhood in Fort Worth, but my adolescent and adult years, a good portion of them in Dallas. And so I learned a lot in Dallas. That's a great town. Nashville is a great town because, a lot of, the majority of my business connections are in Nashville. I dig Seattle, as far as food goes.
That's why I asked the question. I would have never would have thought.
Well, Seattle's cool because when I first started going to Seattle many, many years ago, I enjoyed just the weather, the fresh air. The food was always pretty cool. It was interesting, you get fish and all that stuff, but it was just cool to kind of hang out, and I don't know. I've always enjoyed it. I haven't spent a whole lot of time there in recent years, but I do like Seattle. I think it's a cool town.
See, that's why I asked. Kurt Angle said Moscow.
Never been there. Never been to
And
Russia.
I'm like, why would you say like that's not? And he goes, the people treated me so well, and I was so he said it was just because it was unexpected, but it really influenced him to not prejudge people.
Oh, see, I've never been there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because obviously I don't agree with their politics, but the people that were there treated me as good as anybody else. So,
what would be really interesting, as far as travel goes, would be kind of like a culinary tourism where you get to go and sample the food, learn how to cook the dishes that you like from that country. I think that'd be kind of cool. Now, when I cook, I like to, I'll kind of think about where do I want the food to be from? What country? What country would the? Yeah, well, it's not that easy to just set that up. It's kind of like, okay, who's gonna fund it? That's it's like it's not like I'm taking vacation. It's a matter of work, so I can go and learn.
No, I know.
I want to learn how to cook these dishes. I like German food. I like Mexican food, Asian food. There's a lot of places I'd like to see and learn how to, and Italian food. I'd love to make the dishes there the way they make them there.
Dude, you show up 6'4" with a black cowboy hat on. Come on, man.
Well, excuse me. I'd like to learn how to cook your best dish.
Yeah.
And I want to learn how to cook it here because I want to take it home and then cook it at home too.
Would you be serious about that?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that because I like to cook. I cook a lot. I mean, if you look at my Instagram page, if you look at my Instagram page, I'm cooking, and it's like, where do I want the food to be from today? Do I want Eastern Europe? Do I want Western Europe? Do I want
if you took a trip?
Yeah, culinary tourism, and it doesn't even have to be overseas. It could be Southwest.
Yeah.
Northeast.
Starting to States.
Northwest.
Go to Canada and Mexico and go
Pacific
to
Northwest,
Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. You can stay kind of close by.
Yeah.
To start with.
That's the idea to start with.
Make that happen, man.
Well, that could be it.
I interviewed a guy, Jeff Bradford, who he loved spirits, alcohol and spirits.
Yeah.
So he literally is flying around the world now, and he went to Switzerland to how they make schnapps, and then went to Scotland to learn how to make whiskey, and then went down to Jalisco, Mexico, where they make tequila and shaped it, and that's his show.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. That'd be a cool show.
See,
that'd be a cool show for sure.
That's why you got me thinking like it can happen.
Come on, Pete.
He's gotta get the right people. Do you remember a guy named Huell Hauser? He did a show.
Mhm.
It's a PBS show out here called California Gold, and
Okay, no, I
he was
don't.
a Marine,
Okay.
and he retired and loved California. So he went around and started filming himself. Hi, I'm Huell Hauser. Welcome to California Gold. Today we're at the Mission Santa Fe. Da da da. And he just recorded it, and he recorded a whole bunch of shows, and then went to PBS and said, "Hey, I've got this show," and they went, "Yeah,
Wow.
bad." And
And
20
they got
years
it on
later,
air.
he's California famous.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it was
That's a cool idea.
But
So
now,
today we're here in Longview and we're hanging out and we're looking at the best cheeseburger in Longview, Texas. Follow me. That'd be kind of cool.
yeah,
That'd be kind of cool.
he's
I
got to
could
come
see
up and
that.
catch his catchphrase. Hi, I'm Huell Hauser. He had a little. I think he was from Tennessee, and but yeah, so he had a little accent. And dude, he would bum rush people. There was no filming permits. He'd go, "Hi, do you mind talking to me? Why are you here today?" And he'd talk to the guests that were at Yosemite National Park.
Oh,
And be
wow.
like, I just wanted to see Half Dome, and I thought it was pretty. Well, are you excited to see it? You just bum rush people.
They probably thought it was a bit.
Yeah, they
You
probably did.
know, they
But
probably
after a
thought it
while,
was
he
a
became, oh,
bit.
you're Hugh Hauser. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've told people before, if you just keep showing up, eventually people will think you belong there because you're always there.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
know, you
I've
take
learned
that,
that
you take that.
more than anything with this show.
hmm You
You
take
know,
you take that level of tenacity. You keep showing up, eventually they'll think you belong there because you're always there. And it would feel
yeah,
odd if you weren't.
yeah. You, I've told many, many people this story. I go, you're famous, being Cowboy Troy, especially like during the rodeo. I mean, obviously today you go down to the corner, no one's gonna ask you for your autograph. But
No,
at the rodeo, I always tell people, it's like we went to dinner that one time at oh yeah, I forget the
I
name.
forget the name of the place.
Yeah, yeah. But all of a sudden I'm like, just me and Troy eating dinner. All of a sudden people are like buying him shots, and people are wanting to come over and get an autograph. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's Cowboy Troy. Not it's not.
Well, it's all about context. You
Yeah,
know, in the context of being around the rodeo events and the live shows that are there, they're like, oh, it makes sense because that's where people would normally assume that I would be.
yeah.
So that makes sense.
I think that
But
was the year you Big and Rich opened for Toby.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, well, they probably just saw him on stage with Toby Keith,
right. But in the context of being at an auto show or something like that,
Yeah,
people probably not going to recognize me so much because they don't associate me with car shows.
right.
I mean, I like watching them on TV, but I'm
Yeah,
not I'm not the dude that's out there showing some sort of a 78 Camaro.
yeah. That's like Chris Jacobs, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
if he's around a car show, people are like, oh my God, it's cheap. But walking down the street,
exactly.
I always tell people the same thing. It's like, I won't say his name. We sponsor a cowboy,
hmm
and at the rodeos, they get hit up a lot for, oh my God, oh my God. And so he was hiding
hmm
in the back of our stock room. Like, what are you doing back here? And he goes, oh, I just want to take a break. And, I don't want, because he was, I had to make phone calls. He had to set up the next things and all that, normal
Right.
without getting hit for autographs and all that.
Yeah,
And
that
that's when I sit
happens.
there and go back, oh yeah, you're kind of famous.
Yeah,
They don't act,
there's
most
that.
of them, like you, they don't act that way. It's,
Yeah.
especially the Cowboys are just like, I just, rope. That's all I do. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it when people come and say hello because I remember when I used to be a shoe salesman and nobody really cared.
Used to
They're
be,
like, oh,
you still are.
well, I still have that mentality and I can still do it. I'll still
I
get out there
know.
and I'll still get out there and sell you a pair of boots. I can still do it.
Dude, you
But I
have no idea
mean,
how many women have called me. Is that Cowboy Troy? Is he selling cowboy boots for you guys? And they're like, well, he just
uh,
signed autographs for an hour, but yeah, he's just killing some time, helping out.
that's funny. That's funny. But yeah, a long time ago, I used to sell Western wear.
Yeah.
And before that, and then right after selling Western wear, I worked at Foot Locker and sold athletic shoes. So
Wearing the striped jersey shirt.
I still have that. I still have that jersey. I still have the referee jersey, and it still has my name tag on it.
That's awesome.
It still has my name tag on. My first tour that I was on with Big and Rich, we were out in 2004, opening for Tim McGraw, and I used to take that shirt with me, that referee jersey from Foot Locker with my name tag. I'd put that in the closet on the bus to remind me of where I came from, and to also remind me that if I messed up,
back in the jersey.
Yeah, if I messed up on the show or did something dumb to embarrass the guys, I was going to be back at the mall that very next weekend. And I did that for that first year and part of that second year when we were out opening for Brooks and Dunn. And then when I realized that I got my legs under me, I kind of decided to take it off the road. But for the first year and a half, I took that shirt out with me, and I still have it.
A good reminder.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody that's in the limelight, we're only just, one slip up or one gaffe or one mistake from, going back to what you did before or being removed from what your opportunities were, and I just kind of think of it that way. It's like, that's why you have to be appreciative of the opportunities that you get, because not everybody gets the opportunity to be where you are. You got to work crazy to get there, and then you got to work like everything to stay because somebody's wanting your spot.
Gotcha. Yeah, dude, I'm with you, man. It's pretty interesting that way, though.
Yeah,
I think, and especially as we get older, right? I mean,
yeah,
or the father of triplets, which
yeah,
I still can't imagine.
Yeah, they eat everything. They eat everything.
How tall are they now?
My shortest is 6'3". And the tallest is like 6'4", coming up on 6'4.5". Yeah, it's crazy. They're big fellas now, and it's cool. I'm excited for them.
Oh, I'm excited for you, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm glad to be their dad. I'm glad to be their dad.
What would you want the legacy of Cowboy Troy to be?
The legacy. Want to be a good Christian, good father, and all around good guy, I suppose. I think that makes sense to me. The other stuff, as far as notoriety or being a good artist or musician, that's secondary.
Yeah.
To me.
No, I'm with you on that. Because I still look at it and like, you've done things, your songs that are going to affect people for decades to come, even after you pass away.
Yeah.
Someone's going to hear, it's going to be all right in 30 years and be like, it's going to be all right.
If you just kind of keep the faith and you keep, a good attitude and keep moving forward, things will eventually work itself out.
Yeah.
They will.
Well, that's our goal, right?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. What do you have? How do you want my fans to follow you and see what you have coming up? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Well, you can check out my Instagram. I'm at Cowboy Troy Global on Instagram. If you're on TikTok, you can find me at Cowboy Troy 3, the number 3. Twitter is at Cowboy Troy. Facebook at Cowboy Troy. That's generally the easiest way to keep up with what I'm doing. Lately, I've been spending a lot more time on Instagram just because, posting pictures and, videos of stuff that I cook. So that's kind of where I've been most of the time.
Some of the taco pictures, I was just like, oh, it's the wrong time. I'm super hungry. And he's hitting me up with these taco pictures. Chili. I'm like, oh, come on. That's not fair.
Yeah. The chili is good. Yesterday I had some leftover taco meat at the house and I had some leftover rice from breakfast a couple days before. And I had some vegetables, some, broccoli and baby carrots and some cauliflower. And so I put that in a pan and made some teriyaki with the ground beef because I make my own teriyaki sauce. And so I, made the stir-fry teriyaki beef and vegetables and, and the rice. And it was good. I'll clean out the refrigerator. I can figure out how to make a meal out of what's left over in the refrigerator. I mean, that's not the hard part. It's all about how it tastes. If you got anything like that. And interestingly enough, the taco seasoning in the meat mixed pretty well with the teriyaki. Much better flavor profile than I thought it was going to be, but it worked out pretty well. It did.
We have a local sushi place over here, and he makes his own smoked. Oh my God, not teriyaki. What's the other?
What was it? Smoked salmon?
No. Oh my God.
Or are you talking about a particular sauce?
The sauce.
So like soy sauce or?
Oh yeah, there you go. I don't know what I'm thinking. So he smokes soy sauce, and he makes it in the back, and then he sells it in bottles. And I'm like, oh, it's so good.
That's cool.
It's just a little something different.
That is different because I never really thought about people smoking soy sauce and then using it to make your meals.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty too. So now we should come up with our own. See?
Yeah, see there?
Cowboy Troy smoked soy.
Smoked soy, the Cowboy Troy smoked soy sauce.
It goes with everything, right? Cowboy Troy.
Yeah, that's it. It does.
I'm going to talk to you about your food show. I got some friends I'm going to introduce you to.
Thank you. I'd appreciate it. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I like cooking.
You're perfect for it too. All right, buddy. Well, hey, appreciate the time. It's always great catching up with you. I'm sure.
Thank you, Pete.
A couple more months.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
At the wonderful Roper Stetson booth at NFI.
That's right. At the National Finals Rodeo.
Yeah, we won't say that the main sponsor is Wrangler, but that's okay.
Of course not. That's why I didn't say it.
Hey, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate the time. And
thank you, Pete.
Next time you come out to LA, we'll hook up again.
Sounds good, brother. Take care.
Bud. All right, bud.
Thank you. Bye.